As business owners, entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries.
With the DJ Scratch, you know what that means. Welcome to another episode of Burn and Return. My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor Martin. Alongside me, we have Rado and DeMay. Gentlemen, start your engines. We're recording this on a Sunday. It's getting cooler outside. Fall is among us. I almost said fungus is among us, but definitely not. It's fall.
Not for me, Matt.
Yeah, fungus is among you here and the rest of the world. It's getting a little cooler outside. There's a little fog in the atmosphere on the ride to the office in the mornings, and I don't know. You know, the year is coming to a close for everybody. How are y'all handling it?
I'm just here to pick up the DoorDash for genitals.
Wait. Do you think the girl who's making the rounds on Twitter right now for doing the 100-member whatever, do you think she's recruiting these people? Are they like, is this one of those where you put out an ad for a DoorDash and you're like, you know, hey, I got 100 orders
I don't
here.
know,
By the way,
man.
while you're here, I mentioned this not too terribly long ago.
You
when
can't
my wife and I were
spill
in
too much of
Pensacola,
the
Florida.
Go ahead.
I saw a guy that had a shirt on that said, "Stop making stupid people famous." And boy, do we just lust to give these people just credence and attention. I mean, I'm doing it right now. Literally, I'm doing it right now as we speak. I don't know. It's fascinating. Other than that, how the hell is everybody doing?
Great. I mean, just gonna say that, you know, if ever, and I don't care if this is a male or female, this is slut shaming all the sluts, is that if you go to spend time with a loved one or a person, just make sure there's not like one of those deli counter, you know, take a ticket, now serving.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Like you're at the BMV.
A132, now up. A132. 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 Will somebody tell A132 to come out of the front?
That chick thinks that DMV stands for dick smashing vaginas.
Oh,
she just got
God.
Yikes.
If you don't know what we're talking about,
down on the Jesus Christ, JPink.
Go.
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. That's a toofer.
There is a young lady out there that is claiming that she has slept with 100 individuals in a 24-hour, some less than a day's period.
14 hours. She said it took 14 hours.
We don't understand it. This is a sure sign that life is passing us by and we're getting old because we don't understand
I'm
it.
going to say something horrible right now, and I probably shouldn't say this. I'm going to say it anyway, is that she was one good father away from making better decisions. Let's check out this week's headlines. I should not have said that. Yes.
You know, one of our top episodes of all time, I think, is like the one that's entitled something like "Why Did Your Dad Love You" or something like that. Probably just because so many people type that into YouTube and then click us and they're like, "What do these three guys know about this? This should be very enlightening, morally supportive." And then they're like, "These fucking people, what is their problem?"
They're scumbags and assholes today. Jeez.
But good news is Dad hates them, but their lawns look banging now. 'cause they found it.
They are banging, that's for sure. We had an overturned semi that spilled herbicide across Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Marshall County. This is Tyler Longview Tejas. We had a crash involving an 18-wheeler wherein the tractor trailer ended up turning over and spilled a large drum of herbicide across all lanes of the road at about 4:30 p.m. We had a lot of traffic shut down. And the reason why I bring this up is I think the picture here is fascinating. It is looking like they're using some pretty simple absorbent here to clean this up. And my question is, guys, is what do you think they're cleaning up if they're just using a couple of snakes and some sawdust to get that up? Probably glyphosate.
Probably
Yeah.
probably glyphosate. And you know what's kind of like weirding me out right now? The total lack of PPE on the person doing the spill cleanup. You know, I mean, look at that, because you've got gallons of herbicide concentrate all around you, and the guy is walking through that shit in just his regular shoes. That's weirding me out.
I
Next
do
thing
have.
is all of
Go
his
ahead.
exposed skin. I mean, I'm just at a loss because, like, when I was going through the section of my certification regarding spill cleanups, because you're probably dealing with a punctured or broken container of concentrate, they want you in as much protection as possible because you're dealing with gallons of herbicide concentrate uncontained.
Yep.
The
Whatever
good
it is,
news
they're
here,
not
though.
real concerned about it. Go ahead, DeMay. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, no. I was gonna say, if you put that picture back up, JPink, it's a horrible thing, everything. In light of all that, though, I do have some uplifting news about this, is that because of the spill, really doesn't make a difference here, outside of, staying in the pavement, because that grass on the side of the road couldn't get any more fucking dead than it's already is. So
Good point,
so
Ryan. Good point.
everything's okay. All is well.
Everything is okay. Speaking of dead grass, let's not talk about that real quick. How long can Bermudagrass fairways stay vibrant? A multi-state study reveals the effects of soil moisture, mowing height, and fall fertilization on transition zone winter kill. I thought this
Ooh.
is very timely. DeMay found this here. It says the study improving winter survival of interspecific hybrid Bermudagrass in the Mid-Atlantic region through cultural practices was published in Crop Forage Turfgrass Management Journal in August. Co-author of the study and assistant professor of turfgrass science with Arkansas Ag Experiment Station noted that although the work focused on golf courses, the recommendations can be applied equally. Side growers can use these, sports field managers, etc. Much of the work for golf courses was done on fairway height Bermuda grass, which is usually comparable to sports fields. Many of our turf grass professionals manage hybrid Bermuda grasses in the Mid-Atlantic. Winter injury is one of their biggest concerns. This multi-state project was designed to answer some of the practical questions that would benefit our industry stakeholders. It goes on to talk about the results here. It says there are three primary management practices for turf grass, but particularly with winter kill, they play a major role. I said avoiding late summer applications of nitrogen or Bermuda grass was the standard. Healthy roots are vital to winter survival, and it was thought that fall fertilization could favor lush foliage growth in lieu of root growth, therefore increasing chances of winter injury. However, our research showed that slow release nitrogen applications through mid September had either no impact or, in some cases, positive impact on turf grass quality and color. More importantly, no negative impacts were observed as a result of late season nitrogen applications. Mowing height did not have a substantial effect on winter kill, but it did reduce winter weed populations when we mowed at higher heights, which is a useful thing in finding, really useful finding in serendipitous way, takeaway from the study. The general rule of thumb is to increase mowing height slightly as Bermuda grass approaches winter dormancy. How much depends on the starting point while actively growing in season. It seemed that 3/4 of an inch seemed to be the sweet spot, although we did not see consistent impacts in mowing height on winter injury. We did notice that mowing lower at half inch opened up the canopy enough for weed germination frequency to increase. Mowing at 1 inch sometimes slowed spring green up a little. It turns out moisture is critical. There's definitely a positive correlation with increased soil moisture prior to short-term freezing events, resulting in better turf survival. It's not cut and dry, say, to irrigate your soil to 25% volumetric water content before a freeze, and you'll be fine. The idea is to avoid having droughty soil before a freezing event. Adequate soil moisture is certainly one of the most crucial management practices to reduce winter kill. Um, is that you get a lot of ideas and perspectives when you collaborate on projects like this. The team began working in 2019 while he's a grad student at Va Tech. Then went to work with USGA. Doherty was a graduate student at University of Maryland working under Roberts, later took a job at Clemson. This project exemplifies the benefits of collaboration as a primary study was performed at 3 geographically unique locations in the Mid-Atlantic. By bringing in additional resources from Northwest Arkansas, we were truly able to use broad strokes for practical recommendations to turfgrass professionals throughout the transition zone with confidence that our results apply across the board. Anyway, kudos to these guys for getting this information out because this is highly actionable. And, whenever, again, I think another perfect example that we had, at least here in East Tennessee last year, was we had a record amount of snow in January, I think it was. I think we had like 10 inches of snow. Some areas saw as high as 13 inches of snow. We don't get that here, right? And so what we did end up seeing is a lot of winter kill that resulted in that. But if you also look at our historical rain data, September and October are without a doubt above and beyond our driest months in East Tennessee. We get 50 inches of rain a year, but we may go with only getting an inch of rain in October, or sometimes even less. And so that's a situation that is not beneficial for the amount of winter kill that we see here. We have the driest month in the most critical time that water it needs to be at a sufficient amount in the soil that is going into dormancy, which most of the time around East Tennessee where we are is going to be sometime around Thanksgiving, that standpoint. So the hope is that if you don't have such a dry through October standpoint, and looking at the forecast even right now where I am at in East Tennessee, it's been dry. It's going to continue to be dry. We did get a little bit of rain. I don't even think we got a quarter inch of rain here across this weekend. And looking at the 14-day forecast, it doesn't look like any is on the horizon. So it's probably not going to kick back up rain-wise until Thanksgiving. And then from Thanksgiving forward, when the grass is effectively dormant, and by then we'll have had a freeze as well too. Then we're going to be getting water on it too late. We'll have had a hard freeze through a period of drought, and that's going to increase our chances of winter kill. And before, and guys, I'm sure y'all have all heard this too, that winter kill is a product of like ice sheeting across the surface. All kinds of different theories and opinions on what it is. Sheets of ice creates some sort of damage right there at the crown of the plant. You can't recover from it. And now it turns out, looks like, that time period right before dormancy is one of the most critical times that if it is droughty soil in that you have a higher degree of probability of seeing winter kill. I don't know. This is all very interesting and actionable. DeMay, have you heard one, did you know this was going on prior to? And second, have you heard any of the recommendations that is coming out of this story prior to this being published?
Yes, I did. Dr. Hutchins, a very talented researcher, he and I, along with another researcher, Tyler Carr, from Ohio State, will be presenting on this topic in Palm Springs in January. So we've been working on this, cooking this up here for, I don't know, a couple months. They've been doing a lot more of the heavy lifting than I have. I'm there as a practitioner just to kind of show some of the bad things that can happen and pull different levers and everything else. But this work, I think the goal of this is to sort of kick off, a tool, not to necessarily assess and prevent Ray, but more so to the point of like, okay, winter kill is going to be a fact of life. Like even with, the breeding efforts and the trajectory of the way that they're going right now. And, the other things I'm hearing out of this right now is that there are at least 2, if not 3 vegetative Bermudagrasses that are coming down the pike that are even leaps and bounds ahead of Ironcutter Tahoma, which are pretty solid, not bulletproof, but pretty solid. So, the thing that they're trying to start working on now is a tool to figure out, okay, hey, if I do get winter kill, how can I quickly assess respond and, make a plan to respond. And then what can I do to set expectations around recovery and things like that? Because, right now it's all over the map, depending on what type of winter kill that you have, whether it's from desiccation, whether it's from ice, whether it's from drought, things like that. So, like, there are a bunch of different things, right, that will predispose, obviously, Bermudagrass to winter kill, but that's an all-encompassing term that it covers a lot of things, right? So what they're trying to do is be able to say, hey, if you have this type of winter kill, you have this type of weather, and this coming out of it, right? Here's decisions that you should make that if you have, this much plant material in a given area, you should, let it go, you should sprig it, you should sod it, things like that. Because a lot of times, what we're seeing now that big freeze that happened down in Texas, right down through like the Panhandle of Oklahoma and on down 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things
Right?
that sucked is that all the sod farms got wiped out pretty hard too. So there wasn't a whole lot of sod to go around. So now you're looking for plant material. Again, it's not so much about, hey, is it going to happen or isn't going to happen, and what can we do to prevent? Those are important things, yes, but it's more important of, all right, it does happen. How do I quickly assess and know in, say, February or March, as opposed to April or May, how bad it's possibly going to be, and what I need to do to get prepared to get out in front of it, so that we're not behind the eight ball. So really cool stuff. I mean, there's there's a lot of work done at University of Arkansas before Dr. Hutchins got there. Um, Doug Karcher, Mike Richardson have done a ton of work about, wetting agents and things like that to prevent desiccation, a bunch of other stuff, laid the groundwork, and now, Wendell's taking it and running with it. So, really excited to get out there, and I learn a shit ton. I just sit on these Zoom calls and I just shut the fuck up and listen, because that's about where I'm at when it comes to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, two pictures here I just want to throw up real quick. The first one is going to be mowing high influence on weed pressure. And certainly if you've maintained enough grass, you've seen this out in the field before. I assume those are probably POA sprigs, POA plants that you see in either of the plots there to varying degrees. And you can rely on your pre-emergent as much as you want, but the cultural practices are going to have also a substantial amount of influence on the amount of weed pressure you face over wintering as well too. Then the second one is, and it's hilarious because this goes against so much of what I've seen is common thought. Here we have irrigation prior to freeze event versus a non-irrigated prior to freeze event. A couple of cups here. And boy, oh boy, the number of things I have heard to mitigate the amount of damage that occurs from a freeze event, just to try and get a few more weeks of play or whatever the case may be. And that, I mean, I'm talking everything from going in and restricting irrigation. The other being is that going in and applying like high salt index fertilizers, like applications of potassium nitrate or calcium nitrate. To try and lower the freeze point due to the salt concentration that's actually in the leaf tissue of the plant. There's lots of different ways to try to manipulate it, but it's hard to argue with this right here. Right here, we see exactly how water has such a substantial influence on it. So very, very interesting stuff here. The next one here is the ag economy is in a recession, says the majority of ag economists. It is so more than half of the 70 agricultural economists surveyed in Farm Journal's Ag Economist Monthly monitor believe the United States agriculture economy is in a recession, while 75% of those economists surveyed think the ag economy is on the brink of a recession. Again, not good data out of this. And here's another thing, and people can be mad at me and argue with me all you want. However, I saw a lot of surveys that came in last week regarding which presidential candidate would have a positive influence on the ag economy as a whole and the grain markets. And pretty much down the board, everyone said there are no good options for a rebounding ag economy. And so again, on Trump's side, you've got the tariff situation. On Kamala's side, you have the tariff situation, and neither of it looks good or appealing. And so farm is going to be in a tough position. Now, I will say is that one thing that is positive for farmers right now, in the sense that they may see some rebounding prices, is the amount of the United States that's under drought right now. That is helping with prices. However, our export situation is still absolutely abysmal. Is especially on corn right now is just absolutely wrecked. The supply demand side is completely ass backwards and upside down. Now, if you're farming other things like durum, sorghum, some wheat varieties, rice, you have really not a whole lot to worry about right now as prices down. Yeah, sure. But you're not in the same situation that a corn and soybean farmers in. There has been slight uptick in soybean exports, but that's pretty much in line with what happens seasonally. And it's definitely not enough to move the
Time's
Richter
up, it's
scale
over.
of the earthquake in the ag economy that's going on right now. So what does that mean for us? Who knows? And it might mean that we end up see some softening in prices to continue to linger in some inputs. Hopefully that occurs in nitrogen. Are we going to see a softening in crop protection products, so pesticide materials? Definitely not. I think that's safe to say, especially with whoever gets elected. That we already have standing tariffs, and those tariffs, with regardless of which candidate gets elected, are not going to go anywhere. And so that's it's going to be difficult on everybody's business. Now you've got some secondary effects of tighter restrictions from the EPA, looser restrictions from the EPA may or may not soften some things, but all that's up for debate. And in the short term, if we get into another trade war situation with China, that is arguably ongoing right now still. It's just much quieter and it's not very direct. But I think it's super easy to look at what China had traditionally imports from the U.S. from a grain perspective, from an ag perspective, versus what they're importing right now, and it's effectively nothing, zero. And there's a reason for that. And it was Trump passed the tariffs, and the current administration said, yep, those tariffs are good, but they keep saying that tariffs are bad. So it doesn't make any fucking sense. They're both just absolutely brain dead. So anyway, that's where we are on that. Hopefully it's going to get better. But look, the reality of it is that if you think this is going to have any impact on you seeing better crop protection or pesticide products or fertilizer products, chances are, what's there right now is going to stay there. And so, you're in for the long run. All right. Now, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go there. Okay. Gentlemen's. Let's check out this week's Joe Knows Turf.
Joe Knows Turf. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm gonna give you a bunch of accurate turf facts today because Joe knows turf.
Still want to get Joe on here. He reached out to me. I think I said this on the chat. I can't remember exactly if it was privately or publicly, but Joe says he wants to come on and talk politics with us sometime. So, boy, howdy. That might have to be a pay-per-view event. Maybe we'll do that for our St. Jude fundraiser, because we could probably get a lot of dollars.
I was ready for the challenge.
In fact, I tell you what I would be willing to do with that is that I will do that for our paid members and paid members only, or I will do that on his channel. I'm not gonna talk about that publicly, especially with as heated and contested as it is now. And I will say, then if anybody wants to know where I fall politically, I'm like on the edge of anarchist, kind of like almost legitimately on that side of things. And it's not that I don't see a path where government ever does not end in corruption that ends up fucking the people. And I've got some views that are definitely going to fall a little bit more on the left side of the spectrum, immigration being one of them. Mind you, I am married to an immigrant, and I've got some pretty complex thoughts on that. And I think private business should hold the fucking levers when it comes to immigration, and definitely on other things. I'm very far on the right when it comes to that too, especially spending, fiscal situation. So anyway, if he does, I don't know why I went off on that tangent. I'm so sorry, DeMay. I got off on there for a second, but I just want to put that back call out there that if we do that, I'm actually okay with doing that with our paid members. I think that might actually be kind of fun for them. And I'd love to debate with Joe about this as well too. I don't think
Boy,
he
howdy.
would know what to say about any of our political views. I think it would weird him out. He'd be like, none of these are on my talking points. I don't know how to approach this. There's a lot of independent thought here, and it
Man.
freaks me out.
Yeah. Yeah, because as you know, I'm probably on the
Put it this
Yeah.
way: all my liberal friends call me a MAGA extremist, and all my hard right friends call me a centrist. How about that?
There you go.
I'm just
Well, speak-
I'm just MAGA. I'm just MAGA. Okay? But I'm not, right, Matt? I'm not.
No, not at all.
Well, speaking of somebody who probably should get voted off the island, let's talk about Greg. Greg, JPink, if you want to go to that video and click
Greg.
to about 3 minutes and
Oh.
40 seconds or so, 337.
He
Greg
was a
is going to tell us.
superintendent for 30 years.
Yeah, this was the gentleman.
Goodness.
If you don't remember, that was applying chlorothalonil to his own lawn, telling you that, hey, you probably shouldn't do that, and then defending himself in the comments when he was questioned about it by saying that, oh no, my lawn is a place of business. When it's
What?
clearly
I knew
house.
he had superintendent experience. I didn't know he was a superintendent for 30 years, though.
For goodness sake, Matt, then how old does that make him? How old does that actually make him? Because he don't look that old. Okay? He don't look that old, Matt.
Unless he considers
So what?
maintaining he's the superintendent of his property. Then
Of his own damn
he's
lawn?
been, he's been a homeowner for 30 years, and that qualifies as superintendent. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know. It doesn't.
So in any
I thought he
event,
was a G-man. Anyway, yeah. Sorry.
he is a G-man. He does work for the West Virginia Department of Environment, and their let me see here. No, I'll find it. I'll let you know. Anyway, so
He's
Greg wants
state
to talk to us.
EPA. How about that?
Yes. So there's a few things here that Greg wants to talk to us about, and I think the premise of his video is that the fall nitrogen blitz is dumb, which we'll talk about here at the end. But first, Greg makes some spurious points here that I think need to be highlighted in his prosecution of the fall nitrogen blitz. Let's start it with this one.
That much, you just don't want to do it. The second thing that's kind of dumb about this, and the one guy who actually saw his video admitted it does do this. That first application, when you're using 4600, pure urea nitrogen, is why I say do not use anything above 30% of any particular nutrient that you're putting out on a bag of fertilizer. You're going to have a fertilizer particle here, for example, and a fertilizer particle here, for example. And what's going to happen is they're not going to get the overlap of those two urea sources that you put out on your yard. And you're going to get a really green area here and a really green area here. And in the middle, it's not going to get any nitrogen because they're so far apart. And that's going to look
what
kind of
height
foolish
of
the first
cut
week.
are
Then
you
you're going to come back
smoking
and it is going
crack?
to clean it up.
Sorry, I should not have interrupted. That's my fault.
You're okay. This is he's right. In a golf environment, that may happen, right? And there are better ways to apply, and we'll get to that here. Greg makes some points about how he does and does not like to apply nitrogen, but in this particular instance, this is one thing I have found watching Greg is that he tries to level up his knowledge, right, by saying, hey, and use it as a position of authority that, hey, I was golf course superintendent. I've done this at a high level, but then translating that down. And I think that, sometimes we have trouble doing that too on the show, to be fair, but not all the time. I think most times we're empathetic enough to be able to put ourselves in the shoes of the person that's doing this. But yes, Greg here, when we have, I would say anything over Ray, what do you think? say an inch and a half at most, right? Anything above that,
Yeah.
you're not going to see speckling unless you have some absolutely shitty operator and application discipline. Fair to say?
Yeah, fair to say. I mean, but then the caveat is that as long as you are talking about higher cut grasses and fertilizer products with a reasonable particle size, you're not going to have what I call the green Dalmatian effect.
Nah.
You'll be fine. Just saying.
And be that as it may. So,
And let me provide a little context there. What we're talking about is that particle size distribution and particles per square inch becomes a factor at lower heights of cut. And part of that is how tight the grass gets. It sits on the surface. And if you have never seen it before, literally like Ray described, it is a green Dalmatian effect where you have green speckles across. And so in some instances, what ends up happening, especially if it's not irrigated in immediately, you will have some foliar uptake that occurs through the hydrophilicity of the granule. The granule will absorb atmospheric moisture or the moisture that is emitted through the leaf of the plant that will begin to dissolve the outer layer or outer surface of the granule, and it'll actually move its way into the plant via the leaf, and you'll get a green dot in that particular instance if it's sitting on the surface. And when you get up into higher heights of cut, you typically don't have to worry about that. Or the other thing you can do too is immediately irrigate it in. But the timing at which that gets irrigated in becomes more and more critical, where even if you just leave it there for an hour before you irrigate it in, you can still get speckling that occurs. This especially occurs that if you have something like ferrous sulfate in the granule or another form of chelated iron, and it sits on the leaf surface, you will literally get an iron stain, an iron spot on the grass where it has adhered to it, and you've gotten foliar uptake that's occurred from a granule where it has either moisture that's being released from the leaf or from the atmosphere has facilitated foliar uptake. Okay. Context.
slide up to about 8 minutes and 5 seconds here, JPink.
Second thing I saw putting out a quick release fertilizer with a backpack sprayer.
Pause. We all know who that is in the photo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've had them on the after show.
Yep. I can hear the janitor's keys jangling right now. Go ahead and play.
I would never do this in any situation. The reason being is this. I'll tell you a quick story. Tell you something on myself. Years ago, it was actually the 8th tee of a golf course I was taking care of. And in the distance, I saw this wee little sliver. And it got wide, and then it got narrow. And it was crabgrass coming up. So I went out there and looked at it, and I realized I did not overlap enough when I put out my pre-emergent that June, enough with that sprayer. I had gotten away from my last pass, and that wee little area had a great stand of crabgrass coming up. Now, wasn't a big deal. I went out, put a post-emergent down with a pre-emergent, smoked the area. I was fine. Story over. The problem is with fertilizers is if you miss a spot, it's going to be peaked and it's going to look, you're going to have this green where you put out your fertilizer. Then you're going to have the area that you didn't fertilize, and it's going to be very distinct, and it's going to be yellow. Worst case scenario, and this is why I generally put out, sometimes I use an indicator dye. Generally, I use a spray foam. Actually, on the end of a boom, you have these little tubes, and they put out a blob of foam every probably about 70 feet. Okay, so that way you can overlap. If you're putting this out with a backpack sprayer, if you use a spray indicator dye, first of all, those are messy. I don't use them. They are a pain in the butt. You look like a Smurf when you're done with them. You could conceivably put out with a backpack sprayer fertilizers when there's dew on, so you can see where you're at. But it's sketchy. The likelihood of you being able to put out a uniform fertilizer application with a backpack sprayer is slim to none. That's why I advocate using these hose end adapters. They're very safe. They're methylene urea. They're stabilize your reed. You can put them out. They're very convenient to put it out that way. So anyway, and so those are the two things that I saw, particularly putting out fast release fertilizers, that I just had to say something. That's just wrong. Okay, as far as what I recommend
can
you
we
do,
just stop right there and just point out the fact that I get it, Greg. You ran into a skill issue. It burned you before. I think everybody's been there. Everybody's done. Everybody's gotten a little heavy with the backpack. Everybody's gotten a little light with the backpack. Everybody's missed an area with the backpack, and that's all that is a skill issue. And it takes practice. I think, especially in our early years, we talked about the importance of practicing, especially when people move from granular applications into liquid applications and do some sort of blended approach in their management strategy or management style. Is that any time you take on a new piece of equipment, you have to practice with it, and the more you practice with it, the better you get. Now, we'll say that using a backpack sprayer is a bit like using a bike. That once you get it down, you kind of learn the tricks of managing your routes and managing your spacing, managing the height of your nozzle, in using visual cues to decide where you are. And sometimes that means when you practice the first season, you have to use indicator dye until you feel good and comfortable with it, and then you can start dropping it out. I just don't.
Time's up. It's over.
I don't think that is. I don't think you're given a fair shake that to make a statement and say that using a liquid quick release fertilizer is sketchy at best, when there are tens and tens and tens and hundreds of thousands of acres that are maintained exactly that way, even without an indicator dye or without a foaming system. It's a
My
little
fault
too
for-
Sure, Matt.
nanny for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and if you want to get real fancy, you can have what's called a GPS guided spray controller.
Sure.
Yeah.
People in
Well,
the homeowner
I'm
market
gonna
aren't
I'm
gonna
gonna
do
go
that,
all
but,
the way. Give Greg a second here. Let him keep talking because he's gonna go if the GPS rate controller is on one side of the spectrum. Greg is gonna go all the way to the other side. Are you ready for this?
Oh
Do
dear. Oh dear.
fertilization video. I'm going to leave it right here at the end. You guys can check that out. I go over what you need to be doing as far as this blitz and all this nitrogen and all this potential mowing, all this watering, because you're going to have to water it in and all this other stuff. It's just not a good idea. And it's, there again, you do not need to put this much nitrogen down in order to get the results that you want. You want to go ahead and go out with a good slow fertilizer with a modestly high percentage of slow release in it. It takes the guesswork out of it. If you put it out, like I say in my video, around that first frost time, it's going to feed, and your grass is going to be able to absorb it.
So he ends up with a good note here. All right, that you don't have to do this. The whole hose end thing, I would not recommend that. I don't know why he even went there, but a couple of things that need to be pointed out. One is that this whole lawn nitrogen blitz thing has kind of gotten a little out of hand. There's a lot of videos about it. This was all coined. I think we talked about this a couple shows ago from a post by G-Man, who we used to know from the lawn forum.
I love
Go
G-Man.
out and find it. Good old G-Man.
Oddly, G-Man is one of the people I always got along great with him. I know he was abrasive to some people, but I always got along great with him. And G-Man, wherever you are, just know you still have a warm spot in my heart. Love you, buddy. Hope you and your family are doing great.
There you go. So, lastly, with that, go ahead and put this thing up, JPink. Let's talk about this real quick and why that little graph I sent you. Why this is important, right? And why Greg does make some sense and advocates for not doing this. And there's a whole bunch of videos that people have sent me over the last 10 days of idiots on YouTube making content, and we'll dive into and show it real quick. But the science behind why this is dumb is illustrated right here in this graph. Okay. On our y-axis here, Ray, we've got ET represented in inches, right? So the amount of water that the grass is going to demand or consume based on water evaporating from the soil and from the plant. And then across here, this is the study that was done by Soldat and Kreuzer and all those guys that basically proved that the last 40 years of research on this whole topic was kind of bullshit. Like, yeah, it worked, but you were way overdoing it, right? In terms of amount of fertilizer and the timing, particularly fertilizer. Okay. So what we see here is on the x-axis, right? We're starting in a date of September 15th, and this is Madison, Wisconsin. And we go all the way over here to December the 4th. And what you'll notice here is that the water use, the demand, if we were going to pick a line of best fit and start up here at about, 0.14 inches and slide all the way down to about middle of November, we'd be down near zero. Okay. So basically what this means is that this is the amount of water that grass is taking up at any given time across this time axis on the bottom. And with it dwindling, this is the main mechanism that about 90% of the nitrogen enters the plant, right? When we make nitrogen applications. So you can see if we're getting
right? Mass
flow,
Ryan?
So if we get less nitrogen or less water in the plant, less nitrogen goes in. Therefore, old boy Greg does make some good points. I don't believe, and I don't like some of his inferences there, and he had a bad experience and everything like that. You're right. Matt's right. You got to suck it up. You got to get back out there. What's that line from Billy Madison, guys? You have a pet. You have a responsibility. You don't just go home and quit looking. Get your ass out there and you find that fucking dog, right? So you get your ass out there and you get rid of that fucking crabgrass, Greg. All right? Same thing with the nitrogen. Get out there, hit it hard, but start hitting it a little less hard as you get towards the end of the month. And that's all there is to say about that. Now, Joe,
hit it a little bit earlier in that you go I go look at that graph of the ET for Madison, Wisconsin, and I noticed that by Halloween there's basically very little to minimal uptake happening. Your maximum uptake is actually happening between, I want to say, September and the beginning of October. I mean, that's your prime time.
And
I want for nutrient uptake.
Yeah, and I'm going to make this point right here. And why water correlates with nutrient uptake is when you see people talking about going out your last application of the year, we'll say they're in Madison, Wisconsin, and it's Halloween, and they're applying an organic fertilizer because they want to provide a slow feed over winter. And why that's a stupid idea is if water facilitates growth, water also is dissolving the nitrogen that then moves its way into the plant. If it's an organic fertilizer, you can go take chicken shit and try all you might to dissolve it in water, and it isn't going to work. That has to go through a whole factor of mineralization in order for it to become a soluble form that can work its way into the plant. So if you're applying it, we'll say here November 1st, an organic fertilizer with the idea of slow feeding across winter, that's not what's happening. It's literally going to sit there and do absolutely nothing until the following spring when things start actively growing again, and then mineralization can occur. Then the nitrogen can become solubilized, and then through water uptake, make its way into the plant. Okay, so just going to go. Plants do not eat solids; they uptake liquids. Fertilizers have to dissolve; they have to go into solution in order to make its way into a plant.
Well, Matt and
Ryan, a lot of different ways that happens, but a solid is not taken up into a plant.
Can somebody please show me the teeth or other appendage that the grass would have to uptake a solid in absence of water? Please show me that appendage.
Well, I'll tell you, we might.
Is grass eating urea from the back?
Good question. Fair question, Ryan.
It's 2024 after all.
It is 2024. We might find some grass with appendages here in our burns. Let's check out this week's burns. Actually, it might be a return. I don't know. Here we have, did your lawn maintenance company damage the grass? Boy, oh boy. Why is this happening to me? Okay, there it goes. Okay, here we go. About a month ago, our lawn maintenance company mowed our grass. I noticed a spot that almost immediately appeared beneath our red oak. It was about 4 feet by 4 feet, and it looked like it had tire tracks going through it. A few days later, we had our trees trimmed. The company dragged limbs from our yard. Many more spots appeared almost overnight, again looking like tire tracks. We sprayed with the fungicide, and the grass began to look a little better. One thing that showed up on web searches was a scotch to leaf blight. We've never heard anything like this in 11 years of living here. I've been known how to deal with chinch bugs reading columns, but this one has me stumped. Any suggestions? DeMay, was this the original one you wanted to put up? Was this part of it right here, or was it more just
Yeah,
this
yeah,
collection
yeah.
of?
That part. Yeah, just that part right there.
This should be a notice to anyone out there that maintains lawns for a living, is that when someone calls you and accuses you of killing their lawn, you cannot approach that situation thinking, "Oh my God, I killed their lawn." If you walk into it that way, you're fucked, and you're going to end up replacing it at no fault of your own. Here, they mowed my lawn, a dead spot surface, therefore they killed my lawn. That is the complexity that underwent. However, then we're going like, well, we went ahead and did this, we went ahead and did that. Then I found a scotch to leaf blight. It is imperative. And it goes on to say there may be people here that are familiar with heat tracking caused by running heavy equipment, especially large mowers. I think anyone that's ever seen, someone out there with a 61-inch Skag, mowing drought stressed tall fescue when it's 104 degrees outside and it hadn't rained in 2 weeks. And you leave literally, what looks like dead grass, tire streaks across the yard. Yeah, you probably help facilitate that. Is the plant dead? No. And you get a little bit of water, it'll come back. And then the other thing you may see too that often looks like heat tracks, but is not, would be a scotch to leaf blight, which actually is a turfgrass disease here. And affects in a very similar way, very similar aesthetic. And so here you see, oh man, we applied a fungicide, things got better. It's crazy. Why do you think that is? I just want to bring this up to say that you cannot show up to a customer's house thinking I fucked up. You need to show up to a customer's house and train yourself to think this way and say, I'm going to find out why it appears that it's fucked up. But do not go into it thinking I fucked it up. What were some other things in this you wanted to highlight, DeMay? Because that was the one that just
the fact of that, just that big picture of like that. There's people out there that thing A happens and B is the result, and therefore thing A must have caused it, and not the 18 other variables that go into it. And more to the point here, and you just said it, is you don't want to roll up somewhere thinking, what did I fuck up? Or not, I guess there's two parts of it. One, assessing risk so that you don't do something bad when you're rolling up on there, right? We had some good conversations this year. We talked to Turpology about that. We talked to some other folks about, hey, bad things do happen, right? So the other point is, all right, how do we make sure that this either doesn't happen again, or how do we recover from that? So I just thought it was interesting that somebody took the time, right, in today's society, like we just said, it's 2024. Somebody took the time to write into a newspaper and tell them how bad their lawn boy was. So Matt, I don't know if you had that on your bingo card today, that people will still put a 49-cent stamp on a letter and send it to the newspaper, so it goes in there and says, you know what, that lawn boy, he's no good.
Kudos to my fellow lawn boys out there. You know what? In my heart of hearts, you are good. You are 100% good. Florida man, God Almighty, the things that come out of Florida
this
is
one's
absolutely breathtaking.
bad.
The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office has released more information about the events that have led up to a deadly stabbing Tuesday. Authorities now believe the stabbing was a result of an argument between a postal worker and a lawn care professional. The sheriff's office said the fight broke out at 1 p.m. over a vehicle's parking position on a road. Deputies said they found a lawn care worker, 29-year-old Jacob Whitaker, with upper body trauma following reports of a stabbing. He was pronounced dead at the scene. As of now, no charges have been filed. However, the investigation remains ongoing. Guys, again, what in the holy hell? I'll go to the original one here and see if they shed any more light on this. No, they just said they're looking for information. Come forward. First off, if you're out there, guys, remember, as a lawn care person, the other people that are running service companies like the mail people or package delivery people, whether they work for Amazon or UPS or FedEx or the United States Postal Service, remember, they have to deal with the exact same amount of bullshit that you do. You visit, 10, 15, 20 lawns a day, and you have to deal with 20 personalities. A lot of times they're visiting 150, 200, 300 in a day, and they have to deal with that many personalities that are there. Now they're on and off quicker, and so maybe they only encounter 20 or 30 a day. But how many people are going to be like, why didn't my package deliver today? And like, I don't know. I have no idea. Did you check your tracking number? And it might still be in Michigan, and they're in Florida wondering where their package is, right? Guys, be nice to the other service professionals that are out there. I want to get that out of the way and just always just muster up the most amount of empathy that you possibly can in that scenario when you see another service worker, because I promise you, they're going through the same amount of dog shit that you have to go through. It is not worth it to get into a fucking fist fight with another surface worker over what? Your car parked wrong. And then you end up stabbed and then you bleed to death. I don't know the details of this, and the fact that there hasn't been a charge filed yet doesn't really tell us anything other than, they're still either compiling evidence or, there's a case for self-defense. Who fucking knows? But by God, be nice to the other service professionals while you're out there, because they're going through it too, just like you are. Dude. Stabbed to death by a postal worker. Oh my God, DeMay, I just read.
I'm going through the comments section on Facebook.
I'm going to kind of push back a little bit on this. I'm going to push back on this a little bit because did you know that there are certain neighborhoods here that I refuse to service? Entire neighborhoods. I refuse to service.
Because of the mailman?
No, because of the lack of parking.
Oh.
Lack of parking, okay? I won't deal with it.
So,
you go find some other motherfucker who's willing to deal with it, okay?
I'll put this up in so you guys can read it. Go ahead.
Because here's the reality, is that there are certain places where I look around and I decide, you know what? This is a damn neighborhood that was built not to have any other people besides the damn residents themselves ever in this neighborhood. Therefore, this place is a no man's land.
The comment reads, I see the way lawn care professionals park their massive trucks and trailers on the small side roads. They basically block the entire road without regard for anyone else until their job is complete. It's terrible that it had to come to this. Thoughts and prayers to all involved.
Matt, I have a word for that Matt MC. You know what? You know what? I have a word for that Matt MC. You know what my word is to him? He can go fuck himself. All right?
Yeah, I was going to say,
he can go fuck himself. Balls. Yeah, because I hope to God that son of a bitch never has to have a service person on his property doing anything for him. Okay? I hope not.
Chances are, Ray, this guy lives in a rented closet of someone else's trailer park, and he will never, ever, not once be able to afford a service professional in or around his vicinity. So that is one good looking out, and he can stay there and he can smoke all the neighborhood meth that he wants and write just absolutely bananas comments on Facebook, and we'll make sure to cover it here. Man, rest in peace to the lawn care worker, and man, I hope however it shakes out with the I don't want to pass judgment on the USPS guy either until he gets his day in court, because I mean you never know how this plays out. Look, as a lawn care guy, I can tell you that I have had bad days that I have gone off on people that I certainly should have, and it is a miracle that I didn't get stabbed or shot or whatever, because I am just flying off the handle. And in the other instance, you never know. The postal worker could be an absolute narcissist too, and just, was pissed about the position of his
Hey,
truck,
Matt,
and it took his day out on him. So
here's
I
the
don't know.
thing.
I'd like to see this
Here's the thing.
shake out in the laws. I have a
Is
better
that
understanding
here's
of
my
it.
experience with postal workers, by the way.
I've always had great
A lot of
ones.
them. No, a lot of them are entitled fucking shits. Okay? Entitled fucking shits.
I have never, not once, had
No.
a negative experience with a postal worker.
No,
I mean,
I have seen
always
very
had
in-
positive ones.
No, I've seen very entitled postal workers, and this is kind of why I think even the USPS should be abolished. Tear it down.
I have.
Shut the fuck
there
down.
have been, where in tight neighborhoods with my truck, that I'm basically mailbox to mailbox, and I'm coming out of a backyard, and I see they're struggling to get it, and I mean, usually the first thing out of my mouth is, "I am so sorry. I apologize." And because I know they're struggling too, and I mean, literally, either they'll wave at me or they'll be like, "I don't get it. You got a job to do," something like that. I've never had a bad experience, so I don't know.
No,
Maybe
I've had
that's-
terrible
maybe that's
experiences. I mean,
Southern
I've-
hospitality at its finest.
no, I've had terrible experiences where, you know what? I've had to tell them, you know what? I've got a fucking job to do. Fuck off. Okay?
With that, let's
Fuck
check out
off.
this week's returns. Yeah. Ray's gonna have a stroke over here.
I was also made aware that the stamps are now 73 cents. I should know that, but I don't. I now know, though.
MLB's pitch for the new turf field at Sutter Health Park strikes out because of the mail carriers in the area. I'm just kidding. I made that part. Strikes out.
Because of random
A's
Facebook
Rivercats-
commenters.
A's Rivercats
have
to
them-
play on grass. Major League Baseball's pitch to have the Oakland A's play on artificial turf field in its inaugural season in West Sacramento struck out. It's a push that was promptly met with player pushback. Do y'all hear that? The league reversed course Monday, announcing that when the A's and the Sacramento Rivercats and the San Francisco Giants AAA affiliate temporarily share the field at Sutter Health Park, starting in 2025, they will instead continue playing on a grass field. Since the beginning of this process, we've worked collaboratively with the MLBPA to incorporate feedback from major and minor league players regarding the facilities, amenities, and playing conditions in Sacramento. Based on feedback from players, as well as guidance from MLB's longtime field expert, MLB, the A's, and Sutter Health Park have decided to maintain a natural grass field. This was announced in April. The A's would play at least the next 3 seasons at Sutter Health Park, the current home of the Rivercats, while their new stadium is built in Las Vegas. The A's hosted their final game at the Coliseum in Oakland on September 26. Our shared primary concern is ensuring the best and safest playing surface for the A's, Rivercats, and visiting players. In light of the players' clear preference for natural gas, and after weighing with the MLBPA the potential risks and benefits of maintaining natural gas versus replacing the playing surface with synthetic turf, all the parties aligned in moving forward with natural gas field for opening day in 2025. This is interesting because I feel like, gentlemen, we're seeing a bit more pushback from the player side of things, that they're like, hey, look, if we get a say in this, we think we prefer natural grass. And it's interesting to see that happening at the player level. I'm gonna guess. I don't know, and I'll ask you, DeMay, to see if you know. Do the professional sports leagues do they get to demo these new higher end synthetic turfs that are coming out, whether it's interstitched, different subsurfaces that are installed for risk injury? Do they get to demo that?
I think there's more so testing data, like biomechanical and otherwise, right, that goes into it. But there's certainly, I mean, there's always sort of a first, right? Somebody that's going to take that leap. In baseball, I would say like what the Diamondbacks did in Arizona here, like was that been at least 3 or 4 years ago now, where they switched over. I mean, that was a big switch because they went from grass to synthetic, but it was a pretty exhaustive process that they went through to get to that point. Now, here in Sacramento, it's a much different story, right? This is the AAA ballpark. that's going to serve the A's for a period of like 3 years. And they're also going to continue to play the AAA games there at the same time. So they're doing double duty. So they've got,
That's a lot.
162 games essentially to play on this field. And it's going to be, it's less than that. I take that back. But 150 games to play on this field. And so it's going to be a really, really tough road to hoe, but it could be done. The thing is, in Sacramento, and I can't remember, we talked to several people out there before, but I mean, it's 100 degrees out there in the summer pretty regularly, right?
Yeah. I mean, Wiley's out that area.
Yeah. And so do you want to be standing out there at, 7:00 at night when it's still, 145 plus on the field?
I did not
And
think about that. Yeah.
That's the big thing. That's the big thing. And, there's going to be overlap. There's going to be times where they're playing multiple games a day and things like that. So I think they're looking at, okay, hey, we might have to do some full field resods. We might have to do these things, but ultimately there's no reason that we can't have grass out here. And I think that's really where the Players Association stepped up, and they were talking about this before it was decided that, hey, this is a issue and we're going to stick to our guns on it. And Major League Baseball relented. So I don't know what that means for, some of the other leagues and things like that, particularly the NFL. But it was interesting to hear the players' voice come through and sort of be the lead, be the people that are stepping out in front on this issue and saying, nope, that's not good enough. You can do better. And just sit there and wait. I mean, what are they going to do? So I don't know. I think it'll be a good test case in a completely different thing than anybody's been talking about, right? Everybody's been talking about soccer, with the Women's World Cup, several years ago in Canada. Then they talked about the NFL. Nobody's really brought up baseball, right, from that standpoint. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, hey, listen, if they do this, right, they do it well with grass, let's get UT on board, right? I mean, you got one of the best turfgrass programs in the country. You got the reigning D1 national champion baseball program. Let's get them on grass. Let's go. Let's go talk to Coach Tony.
Is in Sacramento. T-Dot, I had no idea you were.
I honestly didn't know that either.
Nope. And I'm shocked. I just had no idea you were in California. And I'll be damned. I am shocked. It shocked me so much that I don't normally interact with the live viewers while we record this. And it shocked me. I mean, T-Dot, how many years have I seen your name here and had no idea you're in California? I basically know where everyone lives, except now I know where you live. I'm coming to fucking get you, T-Dot. I'm coming to fucking get you. Just kidding. I would never do that. Probably never do that. If I did come to get you, I'd give you a hug on your front porch. How about that? Boy, JPink, I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna steal your joke for this, but I'm not. Not anymore. And oh man,
stand in there and deliver. Stand in there and deliver.
I'm going to quote it verbatim.
I'll tell it.
Go ahead.
It's not my joke. I didn't write it, but I'll take. I don't mind reading other people's jokes. Let me make sure that I get this. Hey. So I gotta think of a better way to tell this, but the punchline is that the only good Kentucky senator is a dead Kentucky senator. Boy. I was gonna do something about like you can't spell common wealth without common death or something like that, because Kentucky's not a state, right? It's a commonwealth for those who's scoring at home. So take that, like Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Delaware? Is Delaware a commonwealth too?
I think you're right. I don't know, but I'm going to say yes. I trust your judgment on that.
Wealths in the United States. These are things that we need to know. These are the ways you get better. Let's see here. You got nope. Delaware is not one. We were incorrect. Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Kentucky. Those are your four.
T-Dot just said, "Don't worry, Matt. You smell different when you're sleeping."
Jesus. Oh boy.
Touche, my friend. Touche. All right. This is serious. This is terrible. Kentucky State Senator Johnny Turner has died a month after a lawnmower accident at his house. He suffered injuries when he fell into the deep end of an empty swimming pool mowing his lawn. He was taken to Harlan Hospital,
Yikes.
later flown to the University of Tennessee Med Center at Knoxville. And Tennessee, of course, is not going to lend a helping hand to anyone from Kentucky. And so, of course, he ended up passing away. Yikes. I had to let that one go. But hey, if he's from Harlan, Kentucky, chances are he was able to get a lot of pain pills from the trailer parks there, because they certainly do not run short on those. So hope, rest in peace, good sir. And I mean, legitimately, that is a tragic way to go. And I hope your family and everyone is able to recover from that.
I just want to say something selfishly here, real quick.
Uh-huh.
I hope that if and or when I have my mower accident, that I'm not languishing for a month. I hope it's over with real fucking quick.
Without a doubt. Let the blades catch me in the carotid and let's get this done.
And if it's anything longer than say 72 hours, I'll amend my my DNR, right? And put in there that, hey, if there's been a mower accident 72 hours later, these guys named Matt and or Ray might show my room, and they are going to, again, smother me with a pillow until I die.
I'll do better than that.
Because of this
Matt,
joke, this is how I'm going to end up going. I'm going to be paralyzed from just below the eyes down, where I can't talk, I can't do anything, and I'm just going to be stuck there, being able to see and process all my thoughts with zero form of communication other than just moving my eyes. And that.
However,
oh,
Matt,
God,
if that should that happen, Matt, I got you.
That's
got you, Matt.
That's the final.
Likewise, though.
Go ahead.
Likewise, though, if should I end up in that condition, I hope somebody comes to my rescue as well.
Listen. This
Ray,
will be the
you
final
will have
chapter.
a line of postal service workers out your door, ready to in your paralysis.
When again, God forbid, but if and when this does happen, I now will be able to author the final chapter of the Matt Martin biography that I'm writing, and that chapter will be entitled, "Why Does Terry Schiavo Get to Have All the Fun?"
With that, do we have anything in the mailbag? Hell no, we don't. Yeah, no, we don't. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to go. I don't know. I'm going to pray a rosary or something. I have no idea. I'm after that one. We are going to try and get a distributor sales rep on here, and we will be nice. We will be nice. No, I'm just kidding. This is a great guy. So we'd have. He can give us a lot of inside information and actually talk to us about navigating early order programs. We're probably a little late on it this year, but how you can use those best to your advantage and score some of that competitive pricing that ends up resulting from taking advantage of early order programs. And so I look forward to having him on and being able to dive a little deeper into that. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the flip side. Y'all have a good week. We'll see you. Bye.